Yes, people, welcome back to the channel. And you know what? I'm a little bit somber. That's usually how I am after United lose games. But I think we need a very serious conversation, and we're going to have one in this video. And it's the ongoing discourse and blame game. Something that is extremely tiresome because as United fans and a whole fan base in general, I think we are sick of being so bad. And it seems as though the standards have dropped. People can call you TikTok-brained, impulsive, impatient, childish, and kind of garner all those kind of moral victories all they want. But the fact of the matter is, no matter what has happened at this club in the past 10 years, there's only so much the standard to drop. And that is something that I will never apologise for upholding. Because for me, I think the bar has been set so low that there is a bit of overpraise whenever United get a few victories or a few good performances. And then we've got to look ourselves in the mirror and think, are we being realistic or are we just forgetting who we actually are? Because I'm looking around the Premier League. There's a lot of parity. It's very, very competitive. The middle table teams and lower have got a lot better. It's become a lot more competitive. But I think at the very top, there isn't that much that's scary about it. And I don't think the jump that United need to make to get back in the mix is as big as people are making out. And I almost feel like there is no better time. It's almost like a double-edged sword, because you can see it from an angle of there is no better time for United to be in a rebuild, because there's no one that's kind of really separated themselves from the pack. Even though Arsenal look like they have the potential of being dynastic and they can possibly do so, you can never really believe in the Gunners fully, can you? So I'm going to pump the brakes on that. But outside of that, I think United are just literally 12 to 18 months of competency, and that comes from in the dugout, from the manager, and on the pitch and in the recruitment, from being right up there again. And I came into this season thinking, no European football, no distractions, full training weeks, focus on a league campaign. And we've seen how big clubs that have had that type of season able to have strong league campaigns as a result. And I thought it'd be a massive advantage for us, and it doesn't seem to be that way. And then you've got to look at yourself in the mirror, and United have got to look at themselves in the mirror and think, who's really to blame? And I'll come out and say it. You can see it as sitting on the fence. You can see it as not really leaning one side or the other. I know which way I lean. But it's a mixture of things. It doesn't have to be binary. It doesn't have to be absolutes. You can blame players, you can blame the manager. But what we've seen now is there's been this kind of binary divide in the fan base where people are either putting everything on the doorstep of the players and their performance and alleviating Amorim of all blame altogether. And then you've got the other side and the flip side, which is everything's Amorim's fault and the players are being absolved on. And then obviously people kind of fluctuate throughout the middle. I say that's where I currently am. But I tend to lean more on Amorim has a lot to answer for. As a senior overseer of the club and the team in general, and being a manager, you are meant to shoulder quite a lot of responsibility. You're managing. It's part of the game. It literally says it in the title. And I think when you're looking at 55 games managed, and you're looking at 12 wins in 1 year, in one full calendar year, by the way, in the league as Manchester United manager after spending how much you've spent, I'm tend to believe that is a bigger problem than just players, especially with the reinforcements that we've made. I think that cannot and will not be excused by me. I'm sorry. So we went on this 5-game unbeaten run before we lost to Everton, in which is probably one of the worst performances we've had under Amorim, and trust me, there's a long list. And I saw some tangible improvements. I saw some tweaks that I was happy about. I did feel like there were a little bit of short-termism in him in terms of relying on going long and second balls. It's not really the style that controls matches. You're kind of worried about the sustainability. I feel like the variance kind of can tweak one way or the other when you play that way. But it seemed to suit some of the players in terms of personnel-wise. And that's what I'm a big advocate for. When I'm looking at managers, I'm thinking, do you maximise your players? do you put them in optimal positions? Do you put them in zones that they're most comfortable in? And the more players that you do that with, then the better your team will perform. But what Amorim has found himself doing from day one is the complete opposite. I want you to think now and name me how many players are playing in a position on this team right now under Amorim that is their best. Name them. And if you can't get to 5 or 6 players, then therein lies a serious issue. And then you'll point to recruitment, because I saw a news article today saying United and the higher ups are well within their kind of thinking process of going to go spend big for another overhaul. That they're going to basically throw another 300 mil at it in terms of overhauling the complete squad to kind of fit Amorim's system. I think that has to be earned though, because we know that it needs specialists. We've got a massive wing-back issue. We spoke about it in general, where I think the wing-backs in this system have got to be hybrid freaks, basically. They've got to be able to stand opposition full-backs in the Premier League 1v1. They've got to be excellent in the final third. They've got to be great inside the pitch. They've got to be great on the overlap. They've got to have the delivery of David Beckham or Kolarov, whilst also, on the other hand, be able to defend their back post, defend 1v1, be good defensively, win their duels. You basically got to be Superman. And my issue with that is I was always, and this is what Ineos came out and said that they weren't trying to do, which is have recruitment where it's so specialised as specialists, which there are a lot of in this system, that if it doesn't work out for Amorim, how malleable is the player that you've signed to adjust into a different system or a different formation if Amorim goes? Because if you do throw a lot of money towards specific players that are specialists in a certain way, then if Amorim doesn't work out, you then have to spend 300-400 million pounds again to kind of revamp the squad back to a new manager. So you need to make sure that there's like a chameleon-like nature. You got to make sure the players you sign are malleable and they can play in multiple positions, and they're not just focus specialists on this kind of niche formation and system that we play. I feel like United are still going to find some way to kind of neglect signing a midfielder though, which has been a problem for years now. But you can probably hear in my tone and in my vibe, I'm just getting frustrated. I get really annoyed when United lose, and that's just a matter of the fact. It spoils my week, ruins my mood, and it makes me galaxy brain a little bit, thinking, what's actually the problem? What's going wrong? I will pull my hands up and say, there's players that are not good enough in technical actions. There are players that are probably not at the required intensity all the time. There's players that probably show elements of low IQ at times. But that is the same for any team, any manager, and pretty much anyone in football. It might sound biased, but I think this is just my objective thought process after watching 55 games and seeing how many games we've lost and how many games we've actually played well and deserved to win in, is that I'm looking at it thinking, what is actually, like, when we win matches, are the players performing extremely well and overcoming an abject system and way of playing? Or is it all of a sudden it's clicked and they just listened to what Amorim said for one game out of very, very few? And I'm inclined to think that United actually do have a lot of really good footballers, especially when you compare the personnel compared to other teams. And I think they're good enough players that sometimes, especially, I'm inclined to believe that some of the winning run that we've had, it's just them kind of overcoming their deficiencies. And then as soon as their performance dips slightly, it doesn't just go like, oh, United play poorly. It's catastrophic, like what you've seen. And the problem that I've got is there are so many more catastrophic performances under Amorim than good ones. If you look at good performances from United, you'd say probably Arsenal, still lost. You think Brighton was probably one of my favourite performances. I think that was one of the better performances under Amorim, even though we conceded 2 at the end. I thought the Liverpool one was a decent performance. I think, like, looking back in hindsight, it was probably overrated. Liverpool could have easily scored 2 or 3, 4 in that game. They hit the woodwork about 7 times. And But then when you look at it and think how many bad performances, you think Everton, and then you think Brentford, and you think Grimsby, and it just feels easier to reel off those bad ones. I think the blame's shared, for sure. It's never just Amorim. It's never just the players. But in my personal belief, especially when you account for what is responsibility, I think it's a large enough sample size to suggest that it's Amorim failing more than the players are. And he's not doing them any favours. Because there are a lot of players out there that are going out set up to fail. Dorgu. I had a lot of belief in him. I felt like there was a lot of potential there. He has the raw skill set physically. That's a great starting point in today's football, especially in the Premier League. And I thought that there's something to work with. And I think even he's lost a bit of his shine. There was a certain burst and a spark that he had last season when he did play. That's not there this season. Don't know if that's a lack of confidence, a lack of belief in himself. It's not surprising when you're playing in a team that's playing off colour every other week, where you aren't just a left back and a left wing back. You're basically a pseudo left winger where all the attacking plays funneled through you, and you got he's sending on the likes of Delo, Mazraoui, Dorgu to kind of stand up opposition fullbacks and create something in the final third. And we wonder why we struggle. You've got Ahmad and Bumo that we worried about that fit. They've actually propped up quite a good relationship together because they're good players, they're great players. No matter what you like, what some people would like, you believe that we don't have any good players and it's just a shit show in that sense in terms of personnel. They're just good enough players to work it out, but it's still not optimal, is it? They like to operate in the same areas, the same zones, both wrong-footed on the wrong side, and then you talk about balance in terms of build-up. We can't build up at all. Our only thing we can resort to is booting the ball long. And everyone's like, you don't have to play the same way, you don't have to play tiki-taka, not everyone has to do build-up, not everyone has to play like Pep, all these excuses, because realistically, how many teams have actually won something of note or had a sustained element of success being a long ball team just booting it up the field? I remember when I asked this question before and someone said Klopp's Liverpool did. Klopp's Liverpool built it up really well and played football as well. They just had that element to their game which made them so hard to defend. And what's funny about peak Liverpool under Klopp as well is that defensively they were never exceptional. They pressed really well, so they were very almost like they'd consume you in that way. Do you know what I mean? But they still had that kind of element where if you did get in behind them, they could be vulnerable defensively. So even them, and also I'm a believer when you talking about Klopp and Liverpool and their success, you still got to question the sustainability in terms of, not sustainability because they did have success for a long time. I know they only won one Premier League and I think it was 8-9 years. Outliers don't disprove the rule though, is the point I'm going to make to end that. I just don't think United kind of dominating any element of the match of the game. And I feel like if I asked you how does an Amorim's Manchester United play, you kind of have to be picking your brain to kind of answer that question. I've got a stat actually that I feel like is very much aligned with what I was talking about, which is Manchester United's record on Amorim when we have more than 50% possession or when we have less. And funnily enough, in 39 Premier League games, United have had more than 50% possession 24 times. And we have 5 wins, 4 draws and 15 losses, averaging 0.8 points per game. 19 points in 24 games when we've got more than 50% possession means that this system outright doesn't have the ability to control matches, to have a good rest defence when we countered, to pin teams in, but also to create high XG chances at will. It's a team and a way of playing and a system that's only good for like lower league table teams, where you can counter, you can transition, where you can operate in space, which is always for any footballer, which is much easier. Because on the flip side, when we've had less than 50% possession, we've had 7 wins, 5 draws and 3 losses in 15 games with 26 points, with 1.73 points per match. We're underdogs. We are underdogs. I'm not even going to get into the defensive side of things, because I know I've been saying it, we concede way too many goals. Everyone talks about how much XG we've created, how much better we've gone forward. You'd think so when you sign the likes of Mbeumo, Cunha and Sesko, wouldn't you? If United go and spend 250 million on attackers, you'd think we'd get a little bit better going forward, right? Or was that just Amorim as well? The problem I have is defensively. Can't stop conceding. Can't keep clean sheets. Whenever we concede chances, always really high profile ones. And then our keeper hasn't shown, our keeper that we have, whether it's Onana, even Lemens has conceded a couple of long range shot attempts, whether it be a free kick or whether it be Dewsbury Hall on Monday night. It's just all very sombering, really. And we 10th place Crystal Palace on a weekend. It seems like a couple injuries like of Cunha, Sesko, and all of a sudden we look extremely toothless. But I couldn't believe what I was seeing, man. Some of the decisions that were made against Everton. Why not bring Shea Lacey on? Why not roll the dice? There is no better opportunity for a manager to roll the dice, be adventurous, be a little bit different. Harp on a little bit the extremes a little bit. Come out of your comfort zone. When you're up against 10 men at home to a below par side for 80 minutes. You're bringing on like for like changes at wing back. When at that point, the wing backs are basically playing as wingers, because we've got Everton pinned in. They've just wanted to save a result. You're bringing on Delo left wing basically. And then at the end of the game, you're gaslighting people, throwing little jibes to make it sure that everyone, so that obviously your cultists lap it up and everyone thinks it's the players. I just don't believe there's a long-term revolution or answer with Amorim. I think Amorim's someone that could probably survive to the end of the season. Player quality, lack of quality up top in the Premier League anyway. But do I see this guy being someone that could take us to consistent top 4 whilst balancing Europe, challenging for titles, challenging for trophies? No chance. And I think that's how a United manager should be judged. And that's what the likes of Jason Wilcox and Berardi have got to look at as. But they only come out and speak and do victory lap, pitch side walks, and after United win games saying there's a progress, we know what we're doing. Well, the proof will be in the pudding. Because there's so much to fix and so much to answer for. But that's just me. I'll be back for Palace. I'll be back before the week with another vid as well, but I need United to pick my energy up, man. Because I'm pissed. And I'm frustrated. And United need to be better. Remember to like, comment, subscribe if you're new. And I'll see you next time. Bow.